What's going on, Guardians? It's Sizzle here, and in this video, I'll be detailing my personal journey with the game of Destiny. A journey that has been 10 years in the making. This spring, I made a video detailing the journey of Destiny 2 over the last 7 years, and it was really fun to take a trip down memory lane. My editor and I worked super hard on that video, so give it a watch after this one. I hope you like it. I'm adding this part in postscript. As I was editing this video, I talk a lot about my past in my 20s, as that is when I first got into Destiny. I mentioned lots of friends of mine, and I thought it may be fun to include them in this video, as just like Destiny, they helped shape the person who I am today. I'm making this video in mid-August, and I currently have over 49,000 subscribers, so I figured it may be fun to do a face reveal in this video as a kind of 50,000 subscriber celebration, so I'll be using pictures of me during my story. Here's hoping we're over 50,000 subs when the video releases, but if we aren't, be sure to hit that subscribe button and let's get over the hump. Next goal is 100k. Can't wait. And one more thing. Upon reflecting on all these amazing memories with my friends, I'm really glad I put traveling and real life relationships before gaming in my 20s. Not that I haven't made amazing friends and memories through Destiny, but it made me really happy that I had both. I'm striving to find a good balance between content creation and doing in real life stuff. Anyways, on with the video, and enjoy your first look at my ugly mug so you can put a face to the voice. My journey started about 10 years ago. September 9th, 2014. Man, where does the time go? I used to work shift work, and I was lucky enough to be really good friends with a lot of the guys on my crew. Me and my work homies would game together, and we were on night shift talking about this new game from Bungie called Destiny. We all agreed that we were going to check it out, so after our night shift, me and my buddy Colton headed to Walmart to pick it up on disc. He even bought the Destiny Edition PS4 because he didn't have one yet. On our set off, we booted up Destiny, and that is where the journey began. I created a Warlock, and that is all I played in my time with Destiny 1. I never created a second character. I was content just grinding on my lock, maining Nova Bomb. Void Lock for life, baby. I'm also from a small town, and a lot of my friends from back home picked it up, so between them, my work friends, and my college friends, I had a decent amount of guys to play with. We set off on the grind. My one buddy from college, Nolan, got super into it, and he was kind of my mentor. He would show me how to farm planetary materials, and we would run nightfalls together with my other buddy Trevor. Me and Trevor weren't very good or geared up, and I remember those being a hell of a struggle. But we kept at it. Vault of Glass released, and my buddy Steam, who I've talked about lots on this channel, and Nolan told me about it being the first raid in Destiny. We loaded into the raid, and we were so lost. Up to that point, Destiny had waypoints and map markers and things to tell you what to do. So I was like, what the hell is going on? Eventually, we figured out you had to stand on the plates, but I remember we didn't even beat the opening encounter. My friends from back home and I created a clan called the Nickelbacks with the clan tag Chad. Those were really fun times. My buddy Steam was really good at Crucible, and I felt bad playing with him because I was just hot garbage in Destiny PvP. Steam got super into the game and was doing raids and stuff, and one time when I was on, he invited me to an Atheon checkpoint. They were talking about a cheese that you could do with fusion grenades on self-res Warlock. Being a Warlock, I gave it a go. Keep in mind, I had never done any encounter in the Vault of Glass, but I just happened to be on and they needed a spot to fill and I was a Warlock. I tried it a couple times and didn't get it, but I understood what they meant and what I had to do. I gave it another go and got really close, and on my next attempt, I pushed Atheon off the map for my first ever raid clear. I was a huge casual, so it was pretty cool. I grinded the game for a few months and then fell off. You see, at this time, I was in my early 20s and was partying and chasing girls far more than I was gaming. So I had fun with Destiny, then just drifted away. Fast forward a year from Destiny Vanilla release, Taken King dropped on September 15th, and one of my best friends had just moved to my city for his pharmacy practicum and was living with me from September to January. So we mounted a second TV in my living room and we grinded Taken King together. Looking back, these were such fun times, living with a great friend, gaming together, and playing one of Destiny's best expansions. Man, it's fun to look back on. But again, the same thing happened with Destiny. I grinded for a few months with my same Destiny gang and fell off. I remember running some Court of Oryx with Steam and being amazed by the Dreadnought, and amazed that he knew all the mechanics and how to summon the bosses and all this stuff. He was an expert, and I was totally clueless. But I was just having fun killing shit, even if I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, dude, how do you figure this stuff out? And he told me he watched lots of Destiny YouTube at work. I was like, oh man, I ain't doing all that. That sounds too involved. Sadly, that was pretty much the end of my D1 journey. I never really did raids. I remember some friends from back home pulled me into an Oryx CP and I was on a plate struggling to kill the ogres fast enough. Again, I wasn't high level and didn't have very good gear. So that was the extent of my raiding experiences in D1. My best friend who I grew up with my whole life was telling me how good it was, and how there was an app with LFG to find people to raid with, and how he did it every Tuesday at reset. And I was like, bro, that's crazy, I couldn't be doing all that. But it did sound super fun. But with where my life was at the time, I was just too busy with other stuff to worry about grinding video games. I'm a power engineer by trade, and we have certificates of competency. I got my 3rd class ticket in school and then worked on my 2nd class while working at my job. So in 2016, I decided to focus on that. I had 3 exams out of 6 done. So I wrote another exam in 2016. Then I partied my ass off all summer and winter, and then wrote my final 2 exams in March and May of 2017. And then I got my 2nd class ticket. It was such a great feeling, and I'll never forget it. And funnily enough, I didn't game that entire time. James moved out in early 2016, and I just didn't really game for a year and a half. Hell, my PSN account had even expired and I didn't notice until I bought Destiny in the fall of 2017. Also, in early 2017, my best friend from back home, Skylar, moved in with me, the one that told me about LFG and all that. He was taking pipe fitting, which has some crossover with some of the schooling I was doing. So he was studying school and I was helping him with his stuff while studying for my exams. It was great. And then I wrote my exam around the same time he did finals. After that, we busted out the old N64 and just gamed. I rebeat Mario Golf and Diddy Kong Racing. Me and him grew up grinding things like Star Fox, GoldenEye, Mario 64, and Diddy Kong Racing, so it was really fun to relive those childhood memories. And when I got the result for my last exam and learned I got my 2nd class certificate in mid-May, I decided to treat myself. March 3rd of 2017, the Nintendo Switch had come out, and with it came The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So when I passed my exam, I decided to buy a Switch and Zelda. This reignited my love for gaming. All through my 20s to that point, I would be outside every summer. I had a sick above-ground pool in my backyard and would host tons of parties. But in 2017, on my days off, I was planted on the couch grinding the shit out of Breath of the Wild. My god, that was an awesome game. Growing up, I was really into gaming. I was one of the best players in the world at Madden, specifically 2005 and 2006. And then in 2007, I got big into COD Modern Warfare. I remember studying for finals at my friend Riley's house and we took a COD break. I got absolutely shit on. It was my first online FPS PvP game. Getting killed and I didn't even know who was killing me. But I was hooked and determined to get better, and that I did. Fast forward like a month and we're in the middle of exams and I told my buddy who introduced me to the game that I had prestige 4 times already. Had well over 1 day of playtime. He was like, what the fuck dude, have you even studied? And truth be told, I hadn't really. Luckily, I passed everything, but suffice it to say, when I went to college, I did not take my PS3. I had to focus on my studies. And then I got really into partying and stuff. I hosted pub crawls in college and just got really into the college lifestyle. And I played Call of Duties at friends' residences and stuff, but overall, once I had moved to school, I didn't really game much again until that summer of 2017 when I played Zelda. I played the God of War games and Spider-Man and Batman games when they came out and stuff, but they were single-player story games that had a definitive endpoint, and I could play at my leisure. But for the most part, I was too busy living life, traveling and partying. So when I got Zelda, that game got me hooked back into the joy of the grind. I scoured that map and did pretty much everything the game had to offer. I finished up with it shortly before the launch of Destiny 2, which was September 6, 2017. I remember thinking, oh hey, a new installment, I should check that out, I remember I liked the first one. But this time, yeah, I was still partying, but I didn't have exams and stuff to take up my free time with studying. I was free to grind, and grind I did. D2 launch didn't have a ton to do, but I was just hooked on the gameplay. Nolan and Steam and a lot of the other guys were back for D2, and I remember we struggled our asses off through the Leviathan raid. It took us like 9 hours to get to Callus and another 9 hours to beat him. But right then, I was hooked. I dabbled in Trials of the Nine, but I was still fucking horrible at PvP. But just like with COD, I wanted to get better. Luckily back then, there wasn't much to do. I had imported my Warlock to D2, but again, I only played one character. I grinded the Dawning and got my favorite Warlock chess piece to this day. And then when Curse of Osiris came out, the game was just really dead. I played Monster Hunter World for a couple months and loved that, but got to a point where I was happy with it, so kinda just drifted from it. But again, I just enjoyed playing Destiny 2. I'd also done the Prestige Leviathan, so I felt like I was conquering everything the game could throw at me. With nothing else to really do in the game, I decided I would make a hunter. I loved the game and was just looking for more things to do, which at that time wasn't much. After I conquered Hunter, I then made a Titan and got more into raiding as well. I'd beaten the Leviathan a number of times and the Eater of Worlds also. And then I had my new characters, so I went through those raids to get all the armor on my other characters. And I'm so glad I did because I loved the Leviathan set on Titan. And as I dabbled with the other characters, I loved Sunbreaker Titan. I was getting really good at the game. I took my Titan through Spire of the Stars thanks to an amazing raid Sherpa, and I now had the companion app and was joining LFGs and grinding away, just like my best friend Skylar had done back in D1. All of a sudden, I had went from a casual to a player who actually knew what he was doing. By the time Warmind came around, I was totally hooked. Sadly, I had to work basically every day from April to September in 2018 because of a boiler explosion at work. But I did get 1 week off that summer. I remember I was going to BC for a summer trip, but I delayed leaving because I was grinding Escalation Protocol to get one of the guns. I don't remember which, but they were on a rotation, so I had to get it before I left. And I did all the hidden stuff on Mars. That whole summer I was working night shifts, and I remember vividly when Whisper of the Worm came out. It was the coolest shit ever. I was watching YouTube videos at work, itching to get off to try and get it. It took a few attempts on my trusty Sunbreaker Titan, but I finally did beat it, and it was the best feeling ever. I couldn't believe that I was actually good enough to beat the Whisper mission. And then Bungie announced that Forsaken was coming with changes to our loadouts and an even higher light level, and we could hit 400 before release by doing prestige raids. So I was in there every week doing my prestige clears of Spire of Stars, Leviathan, and Eater of Worlds. I grinded out all the exotic catalysts I could, and without realizing it, I'd become somewhat of a hardcore player. And then Forsaken came out and I was blown away. I played when I could, but there was a lot to grind. I beat Last Wish pretty early on after release, and I beat the Shattered Throne in the week of its release. And I remember we had this one guy in our clan who had the solo emblem for Shattered Throne. And I was like, what the hell? How could anyone solo that dungeon? That's insane. At this point, I was also into Destiny YouTube now, watching guys like Kakus, Datto, and Sweatcicle for how to do certain things. But yeah, I just remember thinking how crazy it would be to solo a dungeon. And then there was a PvP grind for the weapons like Luna's Howl, Recluse, Mountaintop, and Revoker. And so then I went on my PvP arc. I'd done all the raids in Destiny multiple times, so this was my next challenge to overcome. I joined a PvP clan and got my ass torn up in competitive trying to climb the ranks. I was still not very good at all, but I was determined. And over time, I learned many things about the Crucible. Better positioning, drawing out rounds when you have life advantage to build super, not pushing when you have life advantage. Shout out to those guys back in the day who were patient with me and taught me the ropes. And slowly I got better, until eventually I got Luna's Howl. I literally could not believe it. Again, I was ass at Crucible from D1 Vanilla to Forsaken. And then being in a PvP clan, we grinded a ton of Crucible. We would just 6-stack the nights away. We did fun stuff like 6 Rat Kings, Trace Rifles only, all Well of Radiances, and just team shoot. It was great times. Simpler times. Times when the core of the game is what drove Destiny. It was awesome. I did all the PvE along the way as well. Master Nightfalls, Tier 3 Reckoning, the Forges. Sadly, my clan wasn't really into PvE, so I had to LFG a lot of stuff. So I never did get the Shadow Seal just because Season of Opulence was in the summer, and like I said, summers were pretty busy for me. So I didn't want to waste my time trying to flawless a 6-man activity with randos. But I did do the Prestige version on the day it came out, which I thought was awesome. And with Menagerie, I remember seeing guys like Glad solo it, and I just thought it was so crazy. I wanted to be able to do stuff like that. I went out to BC again that summer and told my friend Jeremy, who I would always go visit, that I wanted to create a YouTube channel for Destiny. I loved watching some of the creators do tough challenges and knew I had the skill and the build crafting expertise to do it. And I wanted to share that knowledge with the community instead of just my clanmates and friends. And I knew I was getting good at the game. Only one team on console cleared day 1 Cranosauro, but I was in an LFG team that was getting to damage phase on the final boss on day 1. We just couldn't quite squeak it out. Not bad for LFGs. In Scourge of the Pass, I got close to a day 1 as well, but again, I just didn't have a good enough team to beat the boss. I actually got Anarchy on my first or second clear though, which felt deserved because I knew I was playing well in that raid. So after Forsaken and getting all those pinnacle weapons from Crucible, I was happy with my PvP progression. I was satisfied at the player I'd become over the last year, and then Shadowkeep dropped, and with it came Armor 2.0 and Champions. This gave depth to build crafting like we'd never had before. I was determined to beat the Master Nightfalls with these challenging champions, and Garden of Salvation also came out with Shadowkeep. I attempted day 1, and again, we just couldn't kill the final boss. And no offense to my teammates, but I knew I wasn't the problem. So one weekend morning when I was hungover and had nothing better to do, I decided to give a flawless raid a go on LFG. We had a solid team. Homie blew himself up on the boss on the first attempt, but we knew that was unlucky, so we ran it back and got it. I couldn't believe it. I had just beaten a raid with no deaths. I then felt confident enough to give a solo flawless dungeon a try, so I went into Pit of Heresy and I got to the Chamber of Suffering on my Devour Warlock and went to kill the 6th Knight with my Nova Bomb, and it TP'd into me and I blew myself up with my Nova Bomb. I couldn't believe it. I was so annoyed. I knew that was going to be the toughest part of the dungeon and I'd almost beat it. Oh well, try again another day. A little while after my solo flawless attempt, I decided I had my flawless raid, so I should do the raid challenges. I joined an LFG that was looking to do the challenges, and they were all a clan. They were 5 clanmates and me, and 2 of the guys were Baker and Will, my D2 homies and Day 1 raiders to this day. They both had the solo flawless emblem for Pit of Heresy, yet they were gassing me up in the raid because I was holding my own and not throwing for the challenges. And I was like, nah, y'all are way better than me, I can't solo flawless that dungeon. The good old days, when solo flawless emblems actually meant something because combat used to be a challenge in Destiny. Anyways, I digress. I clicked with that clan immediately and I added them to my friends list. And over the weeks, I would play more and more with those guys. Steam and my one buddy from work, Bobby, were in my current clan, which was called Loud. I told Steam I was thinking of leaving Loud as I was just kinda over PvP and wanted to grind more PvE, and that I had played with these super good PvE players. I thought about it for a while and finally made the move to join Engrams Are Forever. Me, Baker, and Will teamed up to take on Nightfalls and other challenges like Niobe Labs, and we got the Conqueror seal the first season it was available. That was such a crazy moment and really cemented for me that I was getting good at Destiny. Because back then, getting Conqueror was an actual flex. GMs were tough in the early days. Assassin's Cowl had also come out with Shadowkeep, but it didn't make you invis on charged melees at first, only finishers. I was now one of those guys who read the TWAB and patch notes every week, and I remember when they announced a change to make it go invis on melee, I guess charged melee rather, and I knew I was going to use it to conquer the Chamber of Suffering. I strolled in there with my Assassin's Cowl Arcstaff Hunter and Xenophage for the knights up top and proceeded to punch my way through it with ease. I then beat the rest of the dungeon to get my very first solo flawless clear. It was such a rush. Shortly thereafter, I was determined to beat Shattered Throne solo flawless as well, which I eventually did. It took lots of practice and refining my strats, but I finally pulled it off. I was becoming an awesome build crafter. I had an insane Gambit build on my Titan, and the season that Warmind Cells came out, I was second in the world for Elo and Gambit. Prophecy came out in June of 2020, and I couldn't play it day 1 for whatever reason. I was probably working, but I got to beat it week 1, and I fell in love with that dungeon. To this day, it's still probably my favorite dungeon. I told Will and Baker my strats on how to beat it solo flawless. Risk Runner, a Sniper, and Wendigo for Cube Room. Wendigo could blind, which was great for the Knights, the Sniper was good for the Hobgoblins, and Risk Runner was great for survivability. My crutch was Invis Hunter for my first few solo dungeons. Anyways, I beat it on my Invis Hunter, and I still rock that solo flawless emblem to this day. At that point, I knew I had a knack for knowing the best loadout to run in any situation. When we got Conqueror, I used Bite of the Fox, Ariana's Vow, and a sword on Bubble Titan for Tree of Probabilities, and it worked like a dream. I had unique and strong strats for my solo flawless dungeons. That summer, I went back out to BC to see my friend Jeremy, and I realized it had been a year since I first told him I wanted to make a YouTube channel. And in that year, I hadn't made one step towards achieving that goal. So when I got back, I hit up my coworkers who knew lots about computers, and on my weekend day shift, I ordered my first PC. I picked it up a couple weeks later and began my journey. I had no idea what I was doing. Didn't know what a thumbnail was or how to record footage. Hell, I hadn't even played M&K since I was a kid playing Half-Life. But I was determined. I YouTubed everything, got OBS on my PC, bought a mic and everything else like a desk and a chair, and I took some footage from my PS4 of me soloing the 0 Hour mission and put it on a USB, and made that my first video. Before I get too far ahead, I also went back to Destiny 1 and did all the raids with my clanmates. I made a Titan and Hunter as well, but I didn't grind a ton. I probably put like 40 hours into it in the winter of 2020, and it was really fun. I'm glad I was able to experience the D1 raids at least once. But back to my first YouTube video, I remember soloing 0 Hour took me like 4 hours. Well, to do it solo flawless anyways. I'd soloed the Whisper mission as well. I was super into soloing by this point. I soloed my first Master Nightfall, and basically I was just soloing anything I could. So yeah, I made my first YouTube video, and it did horribly of course. It was actually a commentary video, funnily enough, but it was not great. My next 2 videos were Crucible build videos of some really strong Crucible builds. They took a lot of editing, which was something I sucked ass at. I'm still pretty horrible at it, but I'm a lot better than I used to be. Beyond Light came out, and I was fully on PC. Sadly, Will and Baker and my clan were still on console, and crossplay wouldn't arrive for maybe about another year. I did day 1 Deepstone on console with the guys. We had Will and Baker and me and APC, and then a couple randos who weren't very good. We were so close to beating Aatrax, but couldn't get over the hump. Eventually, we called it. I had to go pick up my girlfriend at the time from a party, and when I got back, I couldn't sleep. I hopped on LFG on Taniks, and at like 6 in the morning, we killed him. I was elated. I didn't get the day 1 emblem because I didn't do every encounter, but that was fine. I beat a day 1 raid. Then after the day 1, I was fully on PC and doing my weekly raid runs on LFG. I met my buddy TJ in a Deepstone run and could tell that he was cracked. I asked him to run a GM together after. We did Fallen Saber and it went well. A week or 2 later, OG Glassway came out, which was pretty tough, and me and TJ LFG'd. We found Pegleg Pat, and that became my new GM team on PC, and we would get Conqueror together every season. We did day 1 Vault of Glass with a few other guys. Actually, Pat couldn't make it, but yeah, my PC friends group was growing. My buddy Yeet came along somewhere in there as well, and we would all game together. In August of 2021, Crossplay came along, and then we had a full raid team. Me, Will, Baker, TJ, Pat, and Yeet. This was our crew, the A-Team. And somewhere along the way, we made a new clan to combine my PC friends and console friends. I called it Gilded Guardian, and eventually we changed names to Ascendants. Me and those 5 did Day 1 Vow, King's Fall, Root of Nightmares, and Crota's End. Sadly, Yeet had to leave in the last hour of Crota's End, so he didn't get the clear. And then he kind of moved on to other games like CSGO and Valorant. And in all that time, as I alluded to, I was getting more and more into solo stuff. Also, with the launch of Beyond Light came solo Lost Sectors, and I was in love. I love trying to optimize my builds to get the quickest time possible. You can see from my Lost Sector report that I run these a lot less these days, but back then they were pretty challenging, and now they're pretty much a joke thanks to power creep. So the fun of optimizing them has just went down for me. I would also make Lost Sector guides for every character. They didn't do well on YouTube, but I like to think they were super helpful for those who watched them, and they were a lot of work. Solo flawlessing each one on each character and then making a long form guide on each run. I truly didn't care about YouTube optimization, and I was just happy making the content that I wanted to make. I'd also solo all the seasonal activities. Some of my favorite solos were the Shattered Realms. That was before the resilience changes and the subclass 3.0 changes. And it was back in the old mod system, so I got creative with things like Well of Life, something that was super clutch before Restoration ever came along. They were quite challenging and very fun as a solo. They required very smart and in-depth build crafting, because that was also when match game was in the game, and you really needed to tailor your loadout around that. And there was no subclass intrinsic stunning capabilities. I had awesome loadouts for all of them. Sadly, I was so busy with work and stuff, I just couldn't make those builds into video form, which really sucked because build videos were becoming the meta on YouTube. And to be honest, I think I have the best builds out there, but it is what it is. I was enjoying Destiny like crazy and loved soloing stuff and would make videos where I could. About a year after making my channel, I did have a video pop off and that was super exciting, and to this day, it's my most viewed video. I released it at 1 AM on a Monday. I guess I just hit lightning in a bottle. I would have a few other videos pop off here and there as well, but the growth overall was pretty slow and steady. Like I said, I just made videos when I could. I soloed all the dungeons, all the exotic missions, all the seasonal activities. I was just loving it. My first solo GM was January 25th, 2022. Devil's Lair, my favorite strike from D1. I'm so glad I did one solo GM before the 3.0 subclass changes and the resilience changes. I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. Chobload91's videos were really helpful to me back then. His commentary was super insightful and helped me beat it. And it inspired me to start making my own videos like that. But it wasn't until the Rezil changes came along that I got into solo GMs. That's because I hated how passive you had to play as a solo. Getting one shot is just not fun. But with one shots gone, I started to solo GMs in Season 17 with Solar 3.0 and Classy Restoration. It was a challenge and I really enjoyed it. Again, I was making YouTube content when I could. Fast forward to Season of the Deep, I was going through a rough time at my job because they were doing some really unsafe shit. We parted ways about a year ago and I took it as a sign to do YouTube full time. Luckily, I was smart with my money, as I don't make nearly enough to support myself with YouTube, but I have a decent nest egg and I'm enjoying my new career as a content creator. This past May, I moved cities to live with my girlfriend. March and April, I saw huge growth on YouTube thanks to Into the Light and being able to dedicate a good chunk of time to YouTube videos. The delay of Final Shape was amazing for me personally because the big creators were making fewer videos, and I was able to put out videos that I'd been waiting literal years to make, but just never had the time. I worked with a couple editors as well, and they've been amazing. Shout out to Nuktuk and Mysterious, and thanks for all your help. And I also worked with some thumbnail guys. Shout out to Beat and Frezzy. They have really helped me bring my visions to life, and I could not be more grateful for them. Final Shape was also a huge boon for the channel, which was awesome, and I can't wait to keep bringing you more fun and awesome Destiny 2 content. It's been an amazing journey, and I can't wait to see what the next year holds. I'm looking forward to making my Solo Flaws dungeon guides for the new dungeons in episodes 2 and 3. And in the new year, I may even start streaming more on Twitch and YouTube. I'll probably do variety stuff because, as you can tell from this video, I've been maining Destiny 2 since I stopped with Monster Hunter in 2018. So I would really like to play games like Elden Ring and Cyberpunk and stuff. Let me know down below if you would want to watch that. I may also cover Monster Hunter on the channel when it comes out, as I was also really good at that game and I really enjoyed it, and it fits with the content that I like to make, which is showcasing awesome and fun builds. While you are watching this video, I will be visiting my sister who lives in Geneva, Switzerland. When the video releases, we will have just finished up a 10-day hike through the Alps. As such, I won't really be responding to comments like I normally do, as I'm just looking forward to unplugging for a few weeks, but I can't wait to hit the ground running when I get back. Anyways, that has been my 10-year Destiny journey, from extreme casual to up-and-comer to expert diehard who covers the game for a living. If you had told me that this is how my experience with Destiny would play out way back in 2014 on that morning me and Colton went to buy it from Walmart, there's not a chance in hell I would have believed you. But life is funny like that. If you're still here, then wow, thanks so much for watching to the end. It means a lot. Let me know down below your journey with Destiny. Are you a D1 alpha veteran, or did you just pick it up recently to kill the witness? I'm curious. I genuinely enjoy reading all my comments, and I will read them when I am back from my trip or get time at the airport or whatever. But yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble and go on my trip down memory lane. I appreciate you. Take care.